everybody, and welcome to the Total Soccer Show. I am your host, Taylor Rockwell. Joining me on the other end of the line is a man who would never go in recklessly on Wayne Rooney, but if he did, he'd be sure to make contact. It's Ryan Bailey. Hello, Ryan.
Hello, Taylor. I'm very good. Thank you. Thank you for having me once again on the Total Soccer Show. And if I went on you like a Dom Dwyer on a Wayne Rooney, I would signal intent, and there would be intent, and it would be a foul. That's the important thing, right?
Yes. We're going to get to lots of action today. Let's just go ahead and start there real quick. DC United with the win over Orlando City. Wayne Rooney scoring not an Olympico. We can talk about that too. Nope. But it comes about because of a free kick. Dom Dwyer goes in. Much consternation. Orlando City retweeted a GIF, which I think they thought was exculpatory. Instead, it made it look worse to me. Where were you on this one with Dom Dwyer going in on Wayne Rooney?
Yeah, that was kind of a total exoneration based on a small 4-page report on the whole thing, wasn't it, for me?
Yes.
That kind of tweet. But yeah, I think Stu Holden said it best on Twitter, basically, where he said basically that if Rooney hadn't moved out of the way, he would have had a pretty dangerous tackle being put on him. So you don't have to have had the contact for it to be a foul. It was a bad challenge, and if Rooney hadn't had the wherewithal to move out of the way, and the referee said it was intent. Apparently, it was a quote from Rooney saying so. So I've got no problems at all with that being called as a foul.
Nor do I. But we both do have problems with it being called an Olympico. I saw it referred to as that. I think I referred to as that in the show notes because I didn't see this game live, so I thought these two things were not connected. I thought it was like, oh, that happened, and then there was a corner. No. It's from this free kick. And if it's a free kick, can it be an Olympico, Ryan?
No.
There we go. Thank you for that.
Have you ever scored an Olympico?
No, I think I've been scored on with an Olympico, but I have never myself hit one, unfortunately.
I've done one, and it was a couple of months ago, and it was an out-swinging one.
What?
It swung outwards. It didn't swing inwards, and I don't think I meant it, but it went in at the far post, and it was glorious.
Wait, how can you have an out-swinging Olympico?
So I was trying to hit someone's head at the back post, and it kind of just... I didn't curl it in. I was hitting with my right foot from the right corner, and it kind of swung outwards and swung in.
All right. There we go. Wait, actually, let me go back and say I've scored 40 Olympicos. April Fools. See what I did? Yay!
It is such a dangerous day to talk about soccer, by the way. I was saying earlier, it's always a day where you can't quite trust the news that's coming out. I saw a good one from Fulham today saying they were the first Premier League team to have double-digit shirts. So they had a picture of Mitrovic with 09 instead of 9. And, that's the sort of thing that's going to rile up very, very petty fans out there.
Yes, it is. I blame your people for this because I was checking Reddit last night at like 11 o'clock and saw that Man City had been docked 10 points for financial fair play irregularities. And I thought, wait, this feels like April Fool's. It's March 31st. And then I realized, your people are ahead. Your people are hours ahead, and they're already making April Fool's jokes.
Hey,
so
that might have just been a leak of real news that's coming tomorrow.
I mean... Also a possibility. But if you are going to release major news like that, probably don't do it on April 1st because I won't believe anything I've seen.
Oh, by the way, the best April Fools I saw, there was a nice tweet of a Liverpool player holding aloft the Premier League trophy. Thought that was pretty good.
I mean, top of the table right now. Let's start there. Liverpool with a 2-1 win over Tottenham. In the running order for today's show, Ryan Bailey has written that the last 10 minutes of this game were the Spursiest Spurs that Spurs ever Spursed. And should we start there, or should we start with just Virgil van Dijk being immense? Where would you prefer to go?
Well, they both intersect, kind of, don't they? Because one of Virgil van Dijk's best moments came in those last 10 minutes. I was WhatsApping with Lee, the editor of Bleacher Report, and he said something to the effect of, at the new stadium, they should put that last 10 minutes on a loop because nothing encapsulates Tottenham better than those last 10 minutes. Oh my gosh.
So let's talk there for a moment, if you don't mind, because like I'm one who maybe isn't as like familiar with the idea of Spursing because I'm not a Tottenham fan, and because like I didn't grow up supporting Tottenham. So I'm wondering, like, what is it exactly that you would say, like, why is this the encapsulation of that? For people who are just getting into soccer or not as familiar, like, what is it that makes Spursing such a thing?
Spursiness is a very British concept, I say. There's a lot of schadenfreude in it. People enjoy the fact that Spurs just get so close to glory and then they mess it all up. They just fall at the final hurdle kind of thing. That's kind of Spursiness in a nutshell. And obviously in that last 10 minutes, we had a calamity comedy own goal, and three great chances to score. Probably, definitely one with Lucas getting shut down with that 2-on-1 situation with Virgil van Dijk, which was an outstanding situation from a defensive point of view, of course.
Oh, I think I want to go there because that might be one of the best defensive plays I've seen this season and in a very long time because it's 2v1. It's Sissoko and was it Son? I think the other one.
That's right.
As they're breaking in, and it's just really impressive because it's from midfield. It's 2v1, and Virgil van Dijk. If he the best way I can explain it is he zigzags, so he keeps zigging closer and closer to Sissoko, but at the same time going back towards Son, so that it never really looks like that ball is on. Then he kind of puts Sissoko on his weaker foot, and afterwards I think Virgil van Dijk said, basically, I saw what was happening. I saw that Son was there. Son's probably going to finish, so I don't want the ball to go to him. Sissoko's right-footed, so I want to put him on his left foot. But the idea that he could do that while kind of sprinting backwards on the fly in a very important situation is insane to me. I don't know how you do that. Then again, I'm also not one of the best center backs in the world, so I guess that's probably part of it.
I think it was absolutely stunning, and I think there's good reason we call him the best defender in the world right now. I mean, I wasn't great at math when I was at school, and I can't handle trigonometry that well, but I don't know how he stopped the angle. There was two of them. He was one person. He stopped both the shot from getting meaningful and from the pass. He sort of closed the angle of the pass to Son. He was still pressuring that shot so that Lucas was forced to take it from distance and fluff it over the bar. He should have done better there, by the way, of course, but still, just I don't think it sounds cliche, but can you even teach that kind of thing? What he was doing there, it was just instinct, wasn't it? It was brilliant. Some of the best, I think, some of the best off the ball stuff I've seen in the Premier League. That was just incredible.
It pains me to say, but yes, I would agree. And I think it's you could do a masterclass on that one little segment of just, freeze frame here. Okay, what were you thinking? Let it play one frame. Okay, freeze frame here. Because he really does. It never looks like that ball to Son is on, but it also looks like maybe it will be in just a second. And so you can see Sissoko just keep waiting. And as a result, he's slowing down. He's letting Virgil van Dijk cut off that angle even more. He's bringing the two players closer. And eventually he ends up getting sent wider and wider so that shot, in the end, it never looks like it's going to be that threatening. But I don't think you can teach that because it is just such an instinctive, moment-to-moment decision-making process that you really can only have if you have that level of ability, but also that level of comfort in your defending.
Definitely no panic there at all, was there? And as good as it was, though, if you are Lucas and Son and you've just done that, you can't be very proud of yourselves, right? Because you should have done a bit better.
Yes, absolutely. And I think then compounded by the fact that they go on to concede the late winner via themselves. Jermaine Genius did a really good breakdown of this one for Match of the Day, kind of pointing out that Spurs, if you want to go with the narrative of just kind of switching off or not really being as sharp as they needed to be in these dying moments, thus being Spursy, this would be your example because it's Danny Rose and Trippier switching. Basically it was Danny Rose on the right, Trippier on the left. They're both trying to get back to their favored spots, but in doing so, they don't step out aggressively the way the rest of the Tottenham backline does. So you have this very jagged offside line, which is why Mohamed Salah is left onside. Yeah. Then Hugo Lloris does Hugo Lloris things, and the ball ends up eventually in the back of the net.
Hugo Lloris, I was watching the Match of Day 2 and Jenis and that talking about Lloris and saying, Tottenham have got to make a decision on this guy. And I didn't think it was that serious until sort of Jenis presented it like that.
Yeah.
Do you think he's in danger?
Was it what do you mean? What was the selling point for you? Because the distribution stuff that they went through was pretty telling to me.
Yeah, there was that. And just as a World Cup winning goalkeeper, the world champion reigning, he shouldn't. Yeah. There's been too many incidents this season like that. Just stuff you wouldn't expect for someone of his level.
I doubt he's really in serious threat, especially given where we are in the season and the idea that that's kind of a distraction that managers usually don't want, unless Mauricio Pochettino does want a distraction and does want to be able to shift blame, but that's not really been his style. Yeah. But I do think that it becomes a talking point in the way that whenever David De Gea gets beat from distance when he first signs, then suddenly it's ooh, can he handle long range shots? And whenever you have goalkeepers with questionable decision making, or Manuel Neuer being too willing to come off his line and then eventually that backfires, then you start to have the narratives. And I think here there's definitely some questionable distribution from Hugo Lloris. And then I think if you slow it down, I watched his footwork. He seems like he's set. He seems like he's in a good position. I think it's not even that like hard hit of a header. At first, I thought it was maybe that it was like more velocity to it. I think he just misreads it, and so I think he goes to try to catch it, the header back across from Salah, and then just decides at the last second, like, never mind, I can't catch this, or hold it safely. Yeah. So he tries to parody it, but if you've already committed to catching, and then you parody, you're not going to get the punt, or parry, rather.
You're saying parody?
I said parody, I meant to say parry. Whoops, April Fool's. That's what I can say every time. Every time I make a mistake, it's April Fool's, not me. But he goes to parry it. There we are. And instead, you're never going to get the power you need behind it at that point, so it ends up, just kind of spilling out, and then it hits Vertonghen, or no, excuse me, not Vertonghen, Alderweireld, and ends up in the net, and that's just, it was an explainable moment, but within the context of previous errors, and then some of the, distribution in the game. The one that I still can't tell if Jermaine Janus was, looking for evidence of this, or if this is good evidence, but it was the one where Alderweireld was going to pass it backwards and then just decide to play it out of bounds because maybe he didn't trust Lloris. Again, if you start having that sort of a narrative, and if you start having those talking points, I do think then it can be bigger and bigger. So it then becomes incumbent upon Lloris to do something in the next game to make sure that we don't have more of these types of discussions.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a big confidence position, goalkeeper, and this might be a fairly short-lived narrative, but Is there a link between he had those troubles with the drink driving incident, didn't he? Has that coincided with his drop in form? I don't know if they're related, but it seems like the timelines match up.
So would that just be then that maybe off-field distractions become embarrassing? Maybe you lose a little bit of that sharpness you need. That would make sense. I mean, it has. I can't remember where we were on Arturo Vidal when he got the drunk driving charge during the Copa America. If that ended up being a problem for him, I think they still went on to win it. I might be wrong on that one, but maybe different players have different levels of off-field focus, and how maybe you can just switch on if you're Vidal once the whistle goes. The game is the game, and that's all you're focused on, and everything kind of melts away.
Yeah.
And maybe if you're Hugo Lloris, if you need that level of confidence and mental acuity at all times, then maybe if you have some distractions, you then get distracted on the field.
Yeah, I'm distracted by the word parry now. It's such a wonderful word. It's one of my favorite soccer words.
Really?
Yeah, parry. It just sounds nice.
You're mispronouncing it. It's parody, but that's fine.
It's parody. That's the one. Mm-hmm. That one's even more evocative. But what I was going to say, Tete, is as good as calamitous and as Spursy as this was. Yeah, I'm dropping him in. As bad as this was from Tottenham's point of view, you have to give credit for Liverpool for pushing at that point. They had when that Robertson cross came in, I think there was 7 red shirts in the box. They forced that error essentially. I feel.
Yeah, like. and there I want to say 2 things. One. Credit to Andy Robertson, who had a bad international break. There was much talking about how he can't be that leader for Scotland, that he looked uncomfortable being the captain, being the focal point. But for Liverpool, where he's surrounded by very, very good players, intentional shots fired at Scotland, he can come in and have an assist and make really strong defensive plays, like when he blocks the Christian Eriksen shot, and then contribute there at the end. He continues to be a player who looks even more like a steal, even though we've already said he was a massive steal when they got him from Hull in the first place. Even more so nowadays, and just looked very good in this game.
Yeah.
And then I think the thing that was really telling to me is in the post-match interview when Klopp basically said, I don't know why we didn't do anything in the second half, but we ended up winning, so that's good. He just seemed totally, almost amused by the fact that they ended up winning, and sort of, I think he kind of couldn't believe it given the way the second half went for Liverpool.
Oh, I think he's being a bit coy there, because they definitely pushed hard, and they made risky decisions like pushing up and putting 7 players in that box for that winner. I think that there was some intent behind that. But on Robertson, by the way, do you remember the days when that was Alberto Moreno? what an upgrade!
I shouldn't laugh, but I'm gonna laugh because it's kind of hysterical. Yes, I do remember those days, and I think Liverpool fans will be more than happy that those days are done, or at least appear to be done for now.
That's how you transform from nearly winning the title to very nearly winning the title. You switch out players like that. Robertson has been fantastic this season, and obviously was a key part of this win too.
Now, I have another question for you, though. I was sitting with some friends yesterday. Wow. I was sitting with some friends yesterday, and one of them was adamant that front three for Liverpool was the best attacking triumvirate in the Premier League. You obviously write about Man City for The Athletic. I'm wondering if you would agree, or if you think you could make a front three for Man City that would be competitive and or better, or better than that Liverpool front three.
I would say the Liverpool front three has the potential to be the most potent when they're all firing, and we saw that last season they were all firing, but this season we haven't seen them all firing together at the same time, if that makes sense. So I'd say that City could definitely put a more potent front three out any day of the week this season.
All right.
Does that make sense?
I think it does. I'm not sure where I come down on it. I chose to abstain and let the other two kind of go back and forth on that one because I don't know. I think you could end up you could say oh, well, there's this. Well, then there's that. And it kind of ends up being one of those debates that both sides have merits. But since Ryan Bailey, I trust your knowledge when it comes to Man City. I'll agree with you on this one.
Well, I mean, you got Aguero, Sterling and Sane, or Sterling and Mahrez, or Sterling and someone else. Yeah. You could put Bernardo up there too. I think that's pretty impressive. And they show that they could work together. Whereas, Salah, was it 8 games now without a goal, and Mane's been the only real consistent one of those strikers. I think he's on 17 goals this season. So I think it does depend on the chemistry they have, and right now City got it going on more than Liverpool do in the front three stakes.
Well, that said, Liverpool on top of the table, one game more played for Liverpool than Man City, but 79 points separating them. Man City in second with 77. Tottenham now fall to third place, 61 points, level on points with Man United.
I don't think Tottenham are going to win the league anymore now, by the way.
You don't think so?
No.
I don't know.
I think
you never know. All it's going to take is a quick 19-point swing, and they'll be right back in it.
Stick him a neck out.
I think you might be right. But then it does become... It does feel like the first season in a while where we've had a legitimate title race and then a legitimate race for the top 3/6, I guess, because you've got Arsenal and Chelsea in there, Arsenal having played a game fewer. I do want to talk Chelsea in just a moment there. I'm going to say controversial win over Cardiff.
Yes.
But first, I wanted to talk about today's sponsor, SeatGeek. Ryan Bailey, are you familiar with the fine folks over at SeatGeek?
I am so familiar with the guys at SeatGeek, and I'm a big fan of their product, Tay. I tell you what, I was looking just this morning for some tickets because this Wednesday, do you know Gary Clark Jr.?
I do know Gary Clark Jr.
I'm a big fan of that guy, and he's in Charlotte. That's the city I live in.
Ooh.
And SeatGeek's very easy because you can organise things by city on their webpage. I'm a desktop guy, and you use the SeatGeek app, don't you? I think I'm
a desktop guy as well. I must admit, I use the app because Daryl asks me to use the app for purposes of doing these ad reads. No, I genuinely prefer using my laptop for these.
I prefer Twitter on desktop too. Maybe I'm just old, but anyway,
no arguments from me either. I agree with you on that one too.
I'm getting away from the point. Was that Gary Clark's here on Wednesday? I'm going to snap me up some tickets from that with SeatGeek because I like the cut of that jib.
I will avoid asking where he's playing and what size it is, but I think last time we had this conversation, we asked about the Pixies. They have definitely played in front of 20,000 people. We got many tweets about that. So I'll avoid talking about stadium size, but I will instead say that if you do choose to get those tickets, the other thing I really appreciate about SeatGeek is that they've got the kind of color-coded system to let you know if it's a good value, if it's not a good value. I guess if you're a millionaire, then you're not worried if it's a good value or not. But for folks like myself, if you do want to make sure that the ticket you're getting is kind of cost-effective or cost-appropriate, then SeatGeek has you covered in that realm, which I also greatly appreciate. I'm assuming you do too, Ryan. I'm assuming you're not a millionaire, but you may well be.
Oh, you make your assumptions, Tay. I'll just keep that to myself. But I do. That's a really good feature, actually. Now you mention it. Like I was looking at tickets for the Charleston Open, the tennis, which is happening right now, this morning, and like there were seats for $90, which it said 9.9, amazing deal. There were seats for half that price. It said they weren't a good deal, and I appreciate them being upfront that because I might have gone for the cheaper seats. So I think that's. I like the algorithm there. I like what they're doing.
I like that it seems like you're using the SeatGeek advertisement as a way to kind of show off how cultured and polished you are. I'm going to see Gary Clark Jr. and I might see some tennis. I feel like next it's going to be the opera. Are you going to get tickets to the opera via SeatGeek?
Yeah.
Well, I feel like you could because you can get tickets to concerts, sports events, live theater, comedy shows, all that good stuff. And best of all, TSS listeners can get $10 off their first SeatGeek purchase. Just download the SeatGeek app and enter the promo code TSS today. That's promo code TSS for $10 off your first SeatGeek SeatGeek purchase. Remember, folks, SeatGeek, life's an event. We have the tickets. Neil Warnock
has an event. Got the tickets all night long.
I'm so glad that you sang that one. That's outstanding work. And I also would like to sing more on the show, but have been told by my wife that though I think I am nailing the tone and the singing in key, I am not on a more than regular basis. So I appreciate that you were, Ryan.
Just lay your hair down. If it comes, it comes. Just do it.
Well, Neil Warnock had tickets to the disappointment show, I guess, based on the way he reacted to Cardiff's loss to Chelsea. And it is a strange situation in which the losing manager is furious by lots of different calls that did not go Cardiff's way. But then also the winning manager, it seems like the result did not do anything to help Maurizio Sarri at Chelsea. There was still the angry anti-Sarri style chants at the end. So somehow, even with Chelsea winning, no one seemed happy from this game. Where would you like to start with Cardiff's loss to Chelsea, Ryan?
Well, I think Chelsea fans were singing a rude word about Sarri ball and not appreciating that. And when you're behind against Cardiff for most of the game, I think that's relatively understandable. Not an outstanding performance from Chelsea, but obviously the headlines dominated by this one by the officiating decisions. And this became the Neil Warnock show, which I must admit I kind of enjoy. We've talked about Schadenfreude already on this show, and I wouldn't say that I revel in that kind of thing usually, but when it's Warnock, is there anyone's misery who you revel in as much as Neil Warnock's? I think that's...
Not lately. Not lately. Yeah, and so then to hear him come out and just complain about how we definitely need VAR when I guarantee you a month ago he would have gone on record as saying that VAR is the worst thing that's ever happened and there's too much technology and we just need to get back to the good old days. To suddenly hear him demanding that VAR come in and being worried that it won't come in his lifetime is a fascinating turn of events that I did not see coming, to the extent that maybe that also was a setup for an April Fool's joke. I don't know.
It seems antithetical to the kind of person you think Neil Warnock is, definitely. And I think I've seen on Twitter some people digging up some quotes from earlier in the season when Cardiff have benefited from bad decisions, and Neil Warnock saying words to the effect of, hey, it's the luck of the draw. We got lucky today. Isn't it great? Life's great. I'm going to get a cocktail. So that was basically how
there is no chance that Neil Warnock said, I'm getting a cocktail.
I'm getting a warm pint of bitter.
There we go. There we go. So. Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
One of the enjoyable moments of this game was afterwards when Warnock came out into the centre circle, and there was a kind of that Mexican standoff with the officials. So the officials are we supposed to wait until he's done standing a bit longer? And they just walked past him and got booed. I thought that was very fun.
But he similar to Virgil van Dijk, he was sort of towing the line of trying to get them to commit without himself committing and getting fined. So he would stand there and then kind of would do the I'm applauding the crowd, but walking closer and closer to the officials. And then when they started walking, he sort of had to sidestep and then I think didn't know what to do. And it was, again, another moment that we could probably break down for a solid 5 minutes. But instead we should probably talk about some of the things that happened on the field, because there is...
I wanted to do the 5 minutes on the standing thing.
Okay, actually, I do want to go back to it then. What do you, in the moment, is that him, do you think, trying not to get fined? Is that him, wanting to show his displeasure, but not necessarily wanting to get into a screaming match with all the officials? What do you think his end goal there was? Was it, making the center official cry?
I think it's exactly that, yeah. I think it's just intimidation without going too far to break the rules. Although, you see the red mist was there and he wasn't far from being a bit too naughty in that situation. But, my favourite post-match on-field Neil Warnock incident since he refused to shake Nuno Espirito Santo's hand.
Oh, man. I forgot about that one. Daryl didn't enjoy that one, but I did. But there is reason for Neil Warnock to feel aggrieved, I would say. Cesar Azpilicueta's opening goal, the equalizer for Chelsea, definitely very much offside. Could have been 2 different penalties, both of them on Sean Morrison. Then there's Rudiger bringing down, I believe, Zahore. It was a yellow card when it probably should have been a red. So really,
what do you think
decisions.
about that, by the way? That yellow card for that one, because you could argue he wasn't the last man. I think on Match of the Day too, they said it depends on whether it was a clear goal scoring opportunity. I personally think it was, and I personally think it probably should have been a red, but I can see how he wasn't technically the last man.
Yep, I think I'm strangely, I'm less worried about the last man. The thing that I was focused on is, like, was he definitely going to get to that ball? Was he going to be able to make a play? Because from certain angles, it looks like he is sort of expecting it to skip through and doesn't think that Kepa's going to get there. And that Kepa does then he makes the play. And so then I was wondering, like, is that contact sort of immaterial because the ball hasn't yet reached the player? But actually, I think that is sort of immaterial because I believe by the rules of the game, like going back to the nuances of offside, you get into the debate of, like, can you be offside if you've been fouled, but you're in an offside position? I think usually they'll give that foul. And so here, even if he wasn't going to get to the ball, and maybe he was, because from other angles it looks like he was, I think it kind of becomes immaterial because a foul has occurred. I do think it's a desperation foul in the moment of, oh no, I've been beat. And given that we saw Rudiger pulling down Morrison earlier in the game, or pulling back Morrison rather, it felt like there is kind of a past his precedent moment of, I'm going to tug that jersey just to give myself a little bit of an advantage. I'm going to make a little bit of contact. I think it probably should have been a red, or at the very least it should have been a second yellow, the first yellow going for that tug in the box on Morrison.
Yeah, can't disagree.
So, so you have Neil Warnock feeling justifiably aggrieved, and it does put Cardiff into the relegation zone, although I doubt they're going to be surpassed by Huddersfield, who are now mathematically relegated. Fulham, similar standing, but it does put Cardiff now 5 points off of safety, Burnley ahead of them. Chelsea, not likely to get relegated, are still in the race for fourth place. And I can't tell if that is Chelsea, like, finding a way to win and maybe things aren't as bad, or if that's more so this team could be competing for the title if they had a different manager, or a manager the team all believed in. Where are you on Maurizio Sarri? Do you think he deserves more time? Do you think the system could work if the players buy in and you've just got to kind of change it all completely, as past Chelsea managers have said? Yeah. Or do you think the situation is basically untenable and they will have to make more change?
Untenable was the word which was on my mind before you said it. Yeah, I think it's the kind of thing where he did insist when he first joined that he needed time, but obviously Chelsea aren't the kind of club that give managers time. And I think we're at that stage where clearly it's not whatever he's trying to do is not happening with this set of players. So I don't see how there's any way back here. I don't see how he still stays with the team next season. And as you say, they could still get into the top four. So as disastrous as this is only disastrous by Chelsea's metrics, not by soccer metrics in general, because they're still, getting wins and having some decent individual performances out there. So it's all relative. But yeah, I mean, I don't see him there next season. Do you?
No, and this to me is a thing, as we say sometimes on the Total Soccer Show, this is a things can be two things sort of moment, that I do think Chelsea have a problem. And again, other managers have said this previously, that there are players who there's too much player power. There's not enough kind of backing of the manager. There aren't as many repercussions as there probably should be for players who kind of openly go against what the manager wants or refuse to buy into the system. And I think that they do need sort of wholesale change and maybe like a front office mentality change. I think they still don't have a director of football. Yeah. And so that can be true, but it can also be the case that with the looming transfer ban, I believe I'm correct in saying that they have not yet appealed it to the Court of Arbitration for Sport, or the appeal has not yet been accepted, but I think it will be, which means they will probably still have this summer. Then the ban goes into effect for January of 2020 and then the summer of 2020. So I don't see if this is your last summer of being able to sign players for the next year, if you're Chelsea, or a year and a half rather, how you stick with Maurizio Sarri, who is such a controversial manager, unless you're willing to get rid of 6 or 7 players and bring in 6 or 7 players. And so that you're getting rid of players at a discount because of the ban looming and the fact that things are kind of in crisis. You're going to have to pay more than a premium for the players that are coming in. I think if you're Chelsea and you're looking at that from a financial standpoint and from a team solidarity standpoint, maybe you should stick with Maurizio Sarri, but you probably won't because of all the factors that I've just discussed. So I think, no, I don't see him staying there. I don't see him being there next season. I don't know who they bring in. I don't know how they right that ship. I think they're really hoping that Frank Lampard does amazing things with Derby and they can justify that hiring. But I don't know who else could come in. I don't know who else is in the picture, who else they might have talked to behind the scenes.
Mourinho's free. Just saying.
Oh, boy. Oh boy, that's a weird. I remember when he left Inter, and he was sort of this or maybe it was after he left Chelsea before he went to Inter, that he was this shadow looming over every vacant position of it could be Mourinho, because at that point he was at the peak of his allure as a manager. little bit of a different shadow these days when it comes to being linked with Mourinho. So I doubt we're in for a third visit to Stamford Bridge for him, but
5 o'clock
that would
shadow
be
on his face
hilarious.
when he doesn't bother getting dressed and properly.
There we go.
Am I right?
This is why we pay Ryan Bailey the big bucks to get him in for these types of observations.
So I'm a millionaire, as we mentioned earlier.
Oh yeah, my mistake. So not much else to say about the Premier League for me. Anything else you wanted to get to? Again, commiserations to Huddersfield for the relegation, but I think given their financial limitations and some of the changes they've had, I think they will probably have enjoyed their time in the Premier League and look forward to using those parachute payments to continue to develop and be good.
Indeed, yeah. At least they're kind of doing it the right way, if there's a right way to go down. The only other thing I would say is just watching Man City's game with Fulham, the early Saturday morning one. It was terrifyingly dominant from Man City. Like, after the first 15 minutes, it felt like it was going to end about 20-0. But it was typical of City lately, the way they've done that against Bournemouth, against West Ham, against a few others lately, where they get a scoreline which doesn't tell the whole story. And City have got such an important April coming up, some really big games, 2 Champions League games, the FA Cup semi-finals, and all these really important Premier League games. This is going to be a real test of that team, and this Premier League title race is going to be pretty darn good. I was going to say lit then, but I realised I'm 35 and I couldn't say that, so I said good instead.
I think you're on the verge. You're on the verge of being able to say lit. I think I heard like a 50-year-old man say slaps the other day in relation to a good song, and I was like, no. That's too much. That's not good. You don't need to do that. All right, so you're excited to watch City. I'm excited to see how the title race plays out. Obviously, for personal reasons, I'm excited to see how the race for top 4 plays out. A little different of like narrative in Serie A, which is where we're going to go next, because I kind of don't know what to make of Serie A this season. Every time I think I understand, like, okay, like this team is going to be good or this team is going to challenge, they lose, and then when I think they're maybe not that good, they end up winning. So I think the only thing you can safely say is that Juve, pretty good, probably going to win the title. They remain on top, 15 points ahead of second place Napoli, who annihilated Roma, embarrassed Roma, and that's where I would like to go next. Roma 1, Napoli 4. Should we start with Arkadiusz Milik, my favorite name in soccer?
Oh, yeah, let's do it. Arik, as I like to call him.
Ooh, I like that.
Other people do too.
There's a young Japanese player, I think he's only like 17 or 18, who still plays for FC Tokyo, who's in our scouting network. So, Ryan, you're forgiven for not knowing him, but his name is Takafusa Kubo. That is maybe that's my favorite name in soccer, Takafusa Kubo, but then Arkadiusz Milik second. What do you call him again?
Arik is the name I believe he is used, that is used for him.
Okay. Well said. Let's start.
Not really.
Let's start with that first goal. What's more impressive to you, the finish or the control?
Everything about that was amazing. I think the word Bergkamp, I haven't seen the word Bergkamp on Twitter so
that's
much.
Well said. I didn't see that, but I totally agree. That is a very Bergkampian goal.
It was very France 98-esque of Milik there. Just the picking up the ball. What do you even call that move? I don't know how you describe what he did.
I tried to write it down, and basically I can tell that it was really, really good because I used a lot of words to try to describe it, but it was like outside of the foot, reverse control with his left onto his left to set up the half volley at full speed is what I have written down. So that's how I would describe it, but I don't know if that's maybe the best shorthand. Like Rabona, for example, has maybe a more catchy name than what I have just listed. So should we just call it like the Milik?
The Milik, I think, is much more succinct than all those words you just said. Yeah, but it was just incredible. I mean, he's been a player who's had lots of recent injuries and injuries in his past as well, and cost Napoli a lot of money. So it's good that he's been going so well this season. 16 goals in 19 starts. None of those are penalties as well. So proving to be the perfect, maybe the best number 99 in world soccer.
I mean, that's fair to me because I can't think of many other ones. I think Balotelli was briefly a 99. I don't think he is anymore, but yeah, I'm with you on Milik. I'm also with you in terms of the show notes that you added that Napoli, pretty decent. Ancelotti, also pretty decent. Why don't we go positive first and talk Napoli, then we can talk Roma. Did you enjoy watching this Napoli team? Like, how much have you seen of them versus what you saw in this game today?
Yeah, so basically, I think Napoli are just a really fun team, lots of great talent on there, and they can go to a place like Roma and not be intimidated. And I think, Ancelotti had a difficult job here, picking up from Sarri's team, and they're pretty close to a pretty close approximation of what Sarri had there, I think. Not in terms of their playing style, but in terms of, the way they're pushing Juventus, if they can be pushed with their several points off them, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, especially because I think they looked at this season, as did Roma, to be fair, as new coach coming in, we're going to change some things up. Like, maybe we're not going to challenge Juve this season, but we can kind of strengthen, get everybody on the same page, and then maybe next season, 2019, 2020, then we can kind of sort of go after them a little bit more. But I think for them to still be in second place, comfortably in second place, 10 points ahead of Inter, it shows you how much they've bought into the system, which I'm surprised by given how it felt like Maurizio Sarri had established this brand and it was going to be really difficult for Ancelotti to change that. Now I'm wondering if maybe we have the answer right there for Chelsea. Is like, you just send Sarri back to Napoli, you pay a bunch of money, you get Ancelotti back to Chelsea, and it all works out.
Big switcheroo, everybody.
and
everybody's happy.
And I think, as I mentioned, Roma had a similar plan. And if ever there was an example of like stability in the form of Napoli versus instability, it was here, because while Napoli were excellent and the first goal from Milik was an incredible feat, I do think that Roma shot themselves in the foot a little bit, because maybe any of the last 3 goals that they conceded, you could blame pretty much squarely Roma for a lot of the mistakes that led to those goals. I mean, Napoli's certainly excellent and took their chances. That's all you can do. But Roma, if it's like the Olsen, like the first goal, the cross goes underneath the goal, Robin Olsen's arms. The third goal, Roma have like way too many numbers committed forward and not really hustling back. For the fourth, you can tell they're kind of beaten at that point. Perotti heads clear and then sort of walks forward and keeps everyone on side. And then my favorite part was that he walks out of the picture. Like, he keeps on walking, never goes back into a defensive shape, because I think he knows, like, ooh, I'm at fault here. But if I'm out of camera, no one will know.
Yeah, I'm with you there, but also, I think I'm way more on the side of it was really good attacking movements from Napoli. Like that third goal, for example, I'll give you that. There was, on the counter, Mario Rui had loads of space on that left channel to get in there, and it was like, I think it was 4-on-3, wasn't it, by the time he got into the box? But Roma, it's an odd one, because when you bring in Ranieri, what's he famous for? Organising defences, right?
Yep.
Not done that, has he?
Not so much. And I mean, I think it's not necessarily. I think they've lost 2 games in a row. The last one against Spal,
wasn't it? Yeah,
who are definitely closer to the bottom of the table than they are top 4. But like you'd expect a little bit better from Ranieri, but it is the case that like what a difference 6 months makes, because heading into the season, or at the start of the season, with Monchi coming in or Monchi being there, and now it's going to be like, he's going to bring in this like a new recruitment strategy. Eusebio Di Francesco took them deep in the Champions League. They've got this manager that they're all kind of like rallying around. Totti's still involved. You've got De Rossi in there, like linking the old with the new. It all felt like it was going to work. And yet here we are, new manager, Monchi out. Things are very confusing. And Roma now out of European places entirely. So not a great game from them. But I guess another example of things being 2 things. Maybe just a bad game from Roma and a very good game from Napoli, taking advantage of a bad game from Roma.
Yeah, and I think Napoli have a pretty good record against Roma at the Stadio Olimpico as well. And you've got to take into account the fact that Roma had a lot of injuries. So Stefano Sciuari, Javier Pastore, Florenzi, Pellegrini. I think De Rossi didn't start, did he? So, not ideal from them. I
think he started but came out fairly... No, I think he came out 82nd minute. I just pulled it up.
Okay, you're right. Sorry, he didn't play the whole game, yeah. But, I mean, he was touch and go whether he would play, I guess is the point. And I think, it does seem like a really different Roma to the first half of the season when you're watching them in the Champions League and you think, wow, this is a really nice looking side. And now I think they've lost 6 of their last 7 at home. Is that the number? It's pretty rough. Either way,
those aren't good numbers, Ryan Bailey.
No,
those are not good numbers.
No.
And it's maybe that misery compounded by the fact that their crosstown rivals Lazio got the win. I want to talk about that game in just a moment, but first I want to talk about today's sponsor, Robinhood. Robinhood is an investing app that lets you buy and sell stocks, ETFs, options, and cryptos, all commission-free. I'm telling our listeners that because, Ryan Bailey, it sounds like you are fully aware of what Robinhood brings to the table.
I'm not only fully aware, I am on board, baby. I've been a Robinhood user for about 4 months now. For a long time, I've had sort of a traditional brokerage account where they charge you like 1.5% management fee. And I've not been that happy with it because I see the guy who does the management like maybe twice a year. Don't feel like they really earn that money. So obviously the big benefit of something like Robinhood. No management fees, no trade fees either. I don't know how Robinhood are making their money out of me, because I'm making money out of these stocks. I've made $9.91 this morning. Can you believe it, Tay? Can you believe it?
First of all, I cannot, but I guess I can actually, knowing that, as we've previously established, you are a millionaire. So I would assume you then know how to manage that money and move it all around and make it happen. My question for you is, was that a thing you knew how to do ahead of time? Or, because as Robinhood say, they have this simple, intuitive design. Like, did that make it easier? Did it help you do that, or was it something that you maybe already had a little bit of familiarity with?
I had a tiny bit of familiarity, but all my accounts are managed by the aforementioned manager who gets his 1.5% out of me. This is me branching out on my own, and it's totally down to Robinhood. It really makes things simple for you. The layout is very, I call it millennial friendly, I suppose is the way I describe it. It's very it has news feeds of all the stock when you're looking at your homepage. There's when you're looking at a stock, it says people also bought this. It tells you the likelihood of it performing. It has really good graphs for earnings, but it's all. I mean, lots of this financial stuff. I'm not a numbers guy, as I said really before, but it's in plain English, Tay. It's in plain English, and I really like the way it's laid out, and there's no fees on anything, and it's an absolute winner for me.
There we are. So you can discover new stocks, track your favorite companies, get custom notifications, as you said. Robinhood is also giving listeners of Total Soccer Show a free stock like Apple, Ford, or Sprint to help you build your portfolio. Sign up at soccer.robinhood.com. That's soccer.robinhood.com so you can be as financially successful as Ryan Bailey. Because that's always the goal. That's always the dream.
Well, you'd be even more successful because I never got my free stock. I had to start out buying my own stock. So, get the leg up on me with this deal.
Get a leg up on Ryan Bailey, and Lazio getting a leg up on Inter Milan. See what I did there?
Yay!
1-0 win for Lazio at Inter. That takes them into fifth spot in the table, again, ahead of Roma, who will probably not be too thrilled. The big talking point for this one, aside from Sergei Milinkovic-Savic scoring the winner, finally doing something when the moment mattered when he really needed to, has been, once again, Mauro Icardi somehow being front and center despite not even being in the team once again this week.
Yeah, he was at the stadium with his wife, the Wanda Metropolitano Stadium, sitting next to him. It's a very odd situation, this, because obviously he's fallen out with some of the players, allegedly, even though he returned to training this week and apparently was playing fun with Ivan Perisic, who's apparently his big enemy. But it's very, well, Spalletti said it's humiliating to negotiate with a player to pull on the Inter jersey. The way he's behaved, he needs to stay away and have others play. Negotiating with someone just to get him to pull on the Inter, what do I need to do? Email 20 lawyers and ask them if I can call someone up? Love the sarcasm, by the way. That's great. But him saying it's humiliating to negotiate, this whole thing is just humiliating, isn't it? You've got one of the best forwards in the game sitting there in the stadium watching because of... Is it hurt feelings? Is it embarrassment that's causing this now? I don't even know what's causing this anymore.
Honestly, yeah. I think it's a little bit of that I think, and I am firmly, not in any camp, but right now I'm firmly in the Spalletti did not handle this very well camp, because I think he was in a difficult position of... To just bring Icardi back in, he said he has to sit out today for how he behaved. You say he could have played 10 minutes, he could have played 20 minutes, I think he even could have played a half, but you have to be inside a changing room, you have to have credibility. And I think that was his point, is that if Icardi just comes back and scores the game winner and is suddenly the hero, then it looks like Inter and Spalletti were sort of really the ones at fault here, that they weren't playing him, they could have had more success. Things would not be nearly as dramatic as they've been if Spalletti had just kind of conceded, or if the board had conceded. So I get why you have to do that and why that makes sense, but then it also sounds like sour grapes. It sounds like, I was punishing him, but it's his fault I was punishing him, and that's why we lost. It just sounds like you're making excuses at that point. He doubled down on it after that, saying, people say we lost games without Icardi. Inter didn't get into the Champions League for years with Icardi. Inter lost worse games than this with Icardi. Messi makes the difference, not Icardi, with all due respect. Professionalism and self-respect is everything. So Spalletti, rather than sort of saying, I think, and I guess that's where I am, is that he probably could have said, I wanted, to sit him out. I wanted him to know that his actions have consequences, but we look forward to having him back on the team. I'm excited to have him back, and I want things to move forward, and I think they will. I think they'll probably start him midweek. Inter have Genoa away, but it's still... It just feels like that would have been an easier way to be a little bit conciliatory at the end. And instead to kind of make some of these comments, it feels like even if he does play him, are things better? Or is it really just going to end up being Icardi moving on the way maybe we thought he would when things were at their peak of awkwardness?
This is the kind of relationship that Taylor Swift gets so many albums out of, it's pretty it's not functioning very well.
I'm silent. I'm silent because you're absolutely right, and like yes, you're totally right, because it's even worse because it's like personal relationships, but also like a large corporation, a large entity is opposing him, or in this case, Taylor Swift. Yeah, that's at least a double album for sure.
She's my second favourite Tay-Tay, by the way, just so you know. Wanda Metropolitano Stadium also said Moro is ready, and it's all down to the coach's decision. She said that on this TV show Tiki Taka, which is where she got in trouble in the first place, on that Italian TV show. So she's still stirring the pot. She's not helping the situation, let's just say. But this is all very embarrassing. This would have been the perfect time to bring him back with Lautaro Martinez out injured as well. They ended up starting Balde Diao, and they didn't score, just like they didn't score the last time they started him. Not for want of trying. Loads of crosses pumped into him. It didn't work out. It's not a proud time to be an Internazionale fan, I'd say.
No, I mean, I kicked the Balde in there, not really looking too sharp either. So yeah, I think they're going to need to figure it out quickly, because I think the more they look bad without Icardi, and then the better they look with him, the more his price maybe goes up. But because, again, of all the instability and the kind of bad blood there, I think they're going to get a lot of like lower than expected offers for him this summer. And maybe he ends up at Real Madrid. That seems like a possibility to me. But yeah, let's move on from Serie A. We'll end the Wanda Metropolitano show. I love that running gag. Thank you for that. Before we move elsewhere in Europe, I did want to briefly say, because I meant to bring it up when we were discussing Robin Hood, but we should briefly talk about Tyler Adams. Daryl and I on this show have been, I think, more okay with a lot of people about him playing this sort of right back, moving into central midfield role for the U.S. national team. I will go on record, or I have gone on record as saying, like, I didn't think he fit the number 6 role as well, or like the way Greg Berhalter wants it to be fit, where he wants people who can play like smart long balls, smart diagonals, can link defense to attack, and kind of play good through balls. Tyler Adams did pretty much all of that this weekend for RB Leipzig, with a big win for them, but an amazing through ball from Tyler Adams that, like, I think it's like packing stat would probably end up being like +6. That's how many people were like removed from the equation with this through ball. Ryan, are you on board with him playing as a number 6 for the US? Is that where you'd like to see him play?
If he's going to do that kind of pass, then definitely.
Yeah, right?
I mean, why not? Why not give that a shot? I mean, it's a fairly, it's a more established move than you think, that move from right back to midfield. We've seen that in Germany happen a little before.
Yeah.
But I mean, what's the harm in trying it?
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I think I still don't know if we'll see it with the U.S. because I think Berhalter wants this like system to work, and so I think with the system working, it will probably be Tyler Adams needing to play that right back center mid role. The thing that really stood out for me though with this ball that we're talking about, it was for Yusuf Poulsen, one of his third goal, his hat trick goal in their 5-0 win over Hertha Berlin, is that it's a good ball, don't get me wrong. And it's like, but it's not one of those balls where like a Marco Echeverri, that ball had eyes. Like, there's no way he should have been able to hit this pass, and he did. Like, Hertha are pretty stretched, they're pretty wide open. And so it's a good ball to play into the path of Yusuf Poulsen. The thing that makes it really special to me is how quickly he recognizes it. It's not that he gets the ball, turns, takes a touch, takes another touch, looks, sees it, plays it. It's basically he turns with one touch, plays it with another, and that ball is in. And it's a good, 50, 60-yard ball in. Like, it's the quickness that he's able to read that. That's a thing that I think we didn't necessarily see often from him, or as often from him when he was playing in New York. And it seems like a skill he has certainly added once he's moved to Germany. And if he continues to play like that and continues to sit, I mean, they were basically in a 4-3-3, maybe a 4-4-2 diamond, and he was sitting at the base of that diamond looking very good. If he keeps doing it, it's going to be harder and harder for Greg Berhalter not to play him there, I would say. Yeah,
agree with all that. The only thing, the cynic in me says that turn and pass was so quick that was there an element of hit and hope to it?
That's interesting. I mean, I think you've now enraged Twitter, and I look forward to people tweeting at you. I mean, it's always a possibility, and maybe that's what it takes, is sort of the hidden hope, but the self-belief at the same time. Again, I think that's something that we might not have seen as much from him, that it was like less about, hey, hit that and see what happens, and more so play within the system, play this specific role, and do it this certain way. So again, to me, it's a little bit of evolution, but I do take your point that it may also be evolution with a little bit of luck behind it.
I mean, I'm not taking anything away from it. It's still very skillful to do it, and it came off. But just like, it's not like... I'm saying, is it like a Leo Messi slowed the game down to 10% and can see everything kind of situation? I don't know.
All right, so Ryan doesn't rate Tyler Adams, just writing that down.
I'm going to get deported now, aren't I?
I mean, yes, that is a deportable offense these days. Anti-Tyler Adams sentiment will do that.
He's very... if I was a US Mutant Ninja Turtles fan, though, I'd be very happy with him, that kind of player coming through.
Oh, Ryan Bailey's cracking me up today. All right, IX3, PSV 1. No segue. I'm just moving us there. I found this game really compelling because there was the red card to Mazraoui that it felt like, okay, then PSV able to equalize immediately after the red card. So, it's going to be PSV. They're going to turn this around. This is going to be the big story. Instead, Ajax then able to come back, get the 3-1 win. David Neres with a late 97th minute goal. And I want to start there because he celebrates.
He's our boy.
He runs over. He is our boy. We've I think we're driving that bandwagon. I'm happy to say that you and I are there. We're co-driving, which could be dangerous. My question for you, Ryan, is it's 96th, 97th minute. He scores the third goal. It means Ajax clearly going to win this game. They're all celebrating. David Neres runs over, and he throws his jersey into the crowd. What happens next? Does he get the jersey back? Do they have to bring him a replacement jersey? Do they have to wait for the jersey to be brought out? Like, how does this work? How quickly do you think they were able to get this restarted? Because I only saw the extended highlights of this one.
Yeah, I think when it's 97th minute, there's only a couple of seconds left. You just let him play topless.
You think so?
Yeah, just, it's fine.
I guess even if 97th minute is probably only a few seconds, even if he's not on the field, which is probably what they ended up doing. They just kept him off, played with 10 for like 4 seconds, and then the final whistle went. But I do also want to talk about the red card for a second, because prior to this, it's an own goal that sends Ajax 1-0 up. They go into half. They come out of the half. And it did feel to me like Ajax had the control of this game and felt like the more likely to score. Then the red card, and it's a VAR red card. Mazraoui comes in. It's a very, very high boot to the face of Luc de Jong, not the other De Jong. There's many De Jongs all around. Not Frankie De Jong. It was Luc de Jong. That's the confusing thing. Initially a yellow card, then given as a red. And I think justifiably given as a red, once you see the replay slow down, it's definitely pretty dangerous. My favorite part about this, though, is for it to not be a yellow but to be a red, the referee has to say, like, it was not a yellow, it was a red, which is what he does. But when he does the, yellow no, Mazraoui, sort of is like, oh, okay, it's not even a yellow? Yeah, I agree with that. And then the red card comes out. And so it was just a moment of oh, okay, I'm going to get away with this. I can't believe it. Oh, okay, I see what happened here.
What?
Yeah, exactly. And then, as I said... go ahead.
My favorite part, sorry to interrupt, but my favorite part is he's going down the tunnel looking all disgusted with himself. And the equalising goal came... as he was walking down the tunnel. He's watching it on a big screen in the tunnel, live, as he's walking down. It's compounding the misery. That was brilliant, and I love that the TV cameras caught him doing that as well.
I couldn't believe, first of all, I agree with that, but I could not believe how quickly, I went back and watched that, okay, so there was a cut there. There was an edit, that's why we're seeing this goal happen now, obviously. It really was. It was free kick, played short, ball goes in, ends in a goal. I think Onana, the Ajax goalkeeper, partially at fault here because he comes, 70 yards out of his goal to try to get a hand on this one. Not really, but you take my point. But for all, if I had, I would have bet, this is again why I don't do the investing, because I would have bet all my money that PSV would have ended up with a win here because of the red card, because they score so quickly. It felt like all the sails taken out of Ajax's, or all the wind taken out of Ajax's sails, and instead that they're able to pull it back. It not just kind of puts the pressure on PSV, who are now only 2 points ahead of the table, but it's another thing, I think, where you can say that this season is a very different season for Ajax. The success they've had in the Champions League, the way they've done it with younger players who now they're going to sell on for more money than I can even ever hope to imagine, it's another positive sign in what has already been a very good season for Ajax.
Yeah, definitely. Things are looking really good. And with David Neres, one of those other younger players who might be sold on, reading this morning that Borussia Dortmund want him as a Jadon Sancho replacement. I didn't know they needed a replacement for him, but apparently they do, because they're already anticipating that he's going to be bought.
It's weird how that goes,
Man
right?
United. It's weird how you got to. It's like a chess. You got to make several moves ahead, I suppose. But yeah, this was a really fun Ajax team to watch. Frankie de Jong, I loved watching him sort of spraying the ball about from the middle. It was great. I'm very excited to see what he does with Barcelona next season. And one of my favourite moments, by the way.
Yes, I know what you're going to say, and I'm so excited to talk about it.
Is it the penalty?
Yep.
The VR decision. Mm-hmm. What Van Bommel does.
What does he do, Ryan? What does he do?
So just as the penalties, penalties given after some VAR, a good decision, I'd say, by the way, that the penalty was given. And Van Bommel, because right before Dusan Tadic 2.0, as we call him now, takes the penalty, he gets iced. The kicker is iced because Van Bommel sends on a substitute.
Yep.
Have you seen that before?
I don't think so. I don't think so, but it's what I would expect from Mark Van Bommel. It's not like a man who should have gotten 1 million red cards, but I think only got like 1 or 2 in his entire career, if that.
What?
Yeah, no, it's insane. It's insane how many cards you think he got versus how many he actually got. Wow. So this feels in keeping with that tradition of it's not necessarily against the rules, but you know what he's doing, and it feels like it's kind of cheating, but it's also some gamesmanship. It doesn't end up working, though, because Dusan Tadic ends up finishing the penalty. That gives Ajax the lead, and then, as we said, David Neres ends up with the 3-1 win, as do Ajax, obviously. But I did enjoy that moment as well. It's not a thing I noticed until you pointed it out, so then I went back and watched it. And, yep, that's pretty much exactly what he's doing.
It's brilliant. And it makes me wish I watched more Eredivisie, because the atmosphere looked fantastic in this stadium. These two teams look, really, really good stuff from both of them, and best title race outside the Premier League, definitely, with PSV 2 points ahead of Ajax now, because they closed the gap with this one. I wasn't sure how this one was going to go beforehand, because PSV had won the last 2 games 3-0 between these two sides in De Chopper. De Chopper? I don't know how we pronounce that with a Dutch accent.
You did it perfectly.
Thank you. But Ajax in Amsterdam, I think they're undefeated in 26 games now. They haven't lost to PSV at home since 2015. So, yeah, you could see how the tide was turned based on form and based on the way these games kind of go.
All right, so things very competitive in the Netherlands, slightly less so in Scotland. Still competitive on field, but not in the table. Celtic now 13 points ahead of second place Rangers. That lead was extended after the result this weekend, with Celtic winning 2-1. I was about to say 1-0. Definitely 2-1. And yet the goals not necessarily going to be the talking point, because Rangers 2 red cards, one a second yellow at the very end of the game, the other very much a red card. I believe in the first half, I think 31 minutes in was the red card to Alfredo Morelos. And again, Ryan, like we talk about the Van Bommel sort of gamesmanship. There's other words that we could call it, or other phrases we could use, but we keep it family friendly, so we're not going to say that. There was a little bit of that in this sequence, because Scott Brown, whenever Scott Brown is the recipient of a violent challenge or a punch or an elbow, as was the case here, there's a little bit of like, oh, okay, so he should have thrown that elbow, but I'm going to guess Scott Brown did something. And I'm pretty sure he did. Did you see Scott Brown doing anything that maybe instigated this one?
Yeah, apparently he celebrated a bit too much in front of the travelling Rangers fans.
Oh, that was at the end. He definitely did that at the end for the second yellow.
Didn't he do it earlier as well?
Oh, that could.
I think he did some inciting. That was what started it.
That would not surprise me. But the thing that I saw here was as they're sort of, if you watch the replay of the red card, Scott Brown definitely says something to Morelos as they're running, because it's off the ball. The ball's been cleared. He's kind of running like behind him on Morelos' right side. Definitely says something, and also then cuts across him from behind, and there's just a little bit of contact, and then there's the kind of elbow, the stop from Morelos, and the left elbow back. And I don't say that to say, like, and so Scott Brown did this, and I think Steven Gerrard said afterwards that he should be punished for his role in this. I don't agree with that. What I will say is that Scott Brown knows what he's doing. And if you look at Alfredo Morelos' history this season, he scored 29 goals in all competitions, which is impressive. But this is his 5th red card of the season. His 5th red card. That's insane. He's booked 17 times this season. It's amazing. And I think Scott Brown, if you see that, what you see is 5 red cards and 17 bookings in one season. Okay, so he's got a short fuse. So I'm just going to see what it takes.
You think?
And I think that was pretty easy for Scott Brown. I think it was made very clear that he knew what he was doing because as Morelos walked off, they cut to Scott Brown, who was just laughing. Just smiling and laughing. I think he knew exactly what he was doing.
Oh, God, that was the laugh of a man who's 100% pulled his game plan off there. It's so clear that they've targeted him as the hothead there. The quote from Stevie G afterwards, "I've gone above and beyond for Alfredo. I'll recommend to the board that he's fined a week's wages with the money to go to the supporters who came here. I can't defend him anymore." A week's wages for his 5th red card.
I mean, that seems... And I just want to put this in context that, like, I think there was a season or two ago, like, I predicted that somebody was going to get more red cards than any other player in the Premier League that season. And I went to look at what had happened the year before, and I think the most was, like, 2 or 3 in one season for a player. And even that is pretty rare. So for it to be 5 red cards and the season isn't even over yet... That is an impressive feat, and I mean that in the most negative way possible. Because, again, it's a player we're talking about who scored 29 goals. You think of how many times he's been suspended and how many games he's been suspended for, given that number of reds and the number of cautions. So accumulation factors in there, too. That goal tally could be even higher, and that point difference could probably be a little bit tighter if Morelos maybe had just a bit more control of that temper, or maybe
Rangers hadn't played half the season with 10 men, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And that's not taking anything away from Celtic. Odsonne Edouard was, I would say, the best player on the field by a mile with a goal and assist. Looked at times completely unplayable for the Rangers defense, and looked.
That goal was great, wasn't it?
It really was. It was. I mean. Contrast that, as I did when I was watching it, with what Virgil van Dijk did to Sissoko, and it was sort of that you can tell he just knows exactly what he's doing in every little twist and turn and every little movement to create that little bit of separation to then be able to get that shot off. It was really, really, really excellent attacking play from Edouard, and clearly a player that not a lot of Scottish defenses have kind of dealt with this season, or a caliber of player. So that was a positive. A negative, for me at least, was that Timothy Weah was on the bench, did not play in this game. Would have loved for him to get a goal. Always nice when an American scores in the Old Firm derby. I think the only one I can remember doing that was Maurice Edu. I would have happily seen Timothy Weah do that this weekend. Unfortunately, it was not meant to be.
It's always a nice reminder that Scott Sinclair still exists when you watch Celtic as well, isn't it?
There are so many players on that Celtic team that I'm like, oh, I know that name. Like a lot of times, when it's like the Premier League, for example, there'll be some names that sound familiar, but then you look them up and it's like, oh, that's an 18-year-old. Oh, that's a 17-year-old. Oh, that's I have no idea who that player is. It just sounded familiar. With Celtic, the 4 or 5 times that happened this weekend, it was the player that I thought it was. So, yes, it was nice to see that Scott Sinclair is still doing things, and still doing things well, by all accounts, for Celtic.
Yeah, definitely.
Even if it means keeping Timothy Weah on the bench, which I don't appreciate.
Yeah, it's good stuff, though. And I'm going to stick my neck out once again with a prediction. Celtic, they're going to win this league.
Ooh, Ryan Bailey, not afraid to make bold predictions. I do appreciate that. Again, it's why we have you on the show for these types of analysis.
My head is firmly above the parapet today. I'm really calling the shots.
Well, you've done a very good job being above the parapet today. I think I used that properly. We have talked about many, many games, many, many teams across many, many countries. Ryan, any other games you want to talk about? Any other moments from the weekend, or do you think we've summed it all up rather well, even if I didn't do it there?
I think we've tied a neat little bow around this show, don't you think?
I do. I would just add my final thing that I saw was a quote from the Pope today confirming that Messi is not God, and I would just like to add that Virgil van Dijk might be. That's my own addendum to the show. So, Ryan, thank you very much, as always. 2 appearances in, 5 days? That's a record for you, I think.
I know, it's like one of those 2 week. It's a double game week for me. Exciting stuff.
And you did well. You didn't show the fatigue. There was no legginess. You didn't cramp up near the end, at least not that I know. And if you did, you handled it like a professional.
And I haven't been rotated out like all those Man City players in my fantasy team. Grrr.
Oh, are you a fantasy fellow?
I'm a fantasy fellow.
And how's that going for you this season?
It's actually going the best it's ever gone. I'm in a draft league with lots of media types, and I'm second in the league this year. But it's got playoffs, so I know what's going to happen. I'll have the best year ever, and I'll lose in the first round of playoffs, and I won't get any money.
How very Spursy of you. And are you also a March Madness brackety?
I don't know anything about the basketballs, I'm
afraid. That has never stopped anybody. My wife has won our family pool 2 years in a row, and has, I don't think, watched any college basketball in the last 2 years. She just picks them. as she wants.
All I know is at this time of year, I look on my Facebook feed and it's just people going, UNC, Duke, UNC, Duke. That's all I know.
You got to get some new friends if that's the case.
I do. You're probably right.
All right, well, I'll let you go do that now. But Ryan, thank you again for taking all the time to talk to me about all the games this weekend.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, Tay.